So you have a story you want to tell, but you're not sure how to connect it to make a compelling point. I've got the solution. Grab a piece of paper though. This is gonna take a minute, but afterwards there will be no story you cannot tell. For example, and I've told this story before, so maybe you've heard it, but a man approached me after an event. He seemed a little nervous or excited or a little of both. Whatever it was, he clearly had something on his mind. I have a story, is what he said. I have a story that I've been wanting to tell in the work that I do, but I just don't know how or if I should or how to make it fit. Now let me pause here. When it comes to using storytelling in business, half of the time the problem is people have a message, but they can't find a story to match it. The other half of the time, like for this gentleman, they have a story, but don't know how to match it to a message. The latter is the focus of this video. You have a story. You need to find a message or a point you can illustrate with that story. If you have a story right now, an event or an experience or a struggle or a success in your life that helped shape you, and now you want to share it to benefit others, here's how you do it. It's a lot simpler than you might think. First, grab that piece of paper, for real, and a pen, and draw a line down the middle, dividing the page into two columns. The top left column, I want you to write the word story in big letters. This is where we'll jot down notes on the story you want to tell. Then at the top of the right column, I want you to write the word message. This is where you'll jot down notes about the message or the message you're typically tasked with delivering. We'll put those there. Okay, so story, message. Now let's start with the story column. I want you to think about the story that's on your mind. What are some of the lessons you learned from that experience? What were some of the big ahas, the little ahas? It's okay if there's a lot of them. Think about the themes that permeate that story. Is it a story about love or loyalty, about perseverance? Is it about learning from failure or working with others or the importance of communication or trust or reliability? What is this story about? Write them all down. Don't hold back. For every thought and item you write down, you're actually expanding the surface area of the story. Each item you write in that column is an opportunity for connecting it to a relevant aspect of your message. Speaking of that, let's move to the message column. For the message column, I want you to think about the messages you are typically asked to deliver. If you're in human resources or in marketing or if you're in sales, what points do you typically need to make if you're the CEO or president? What messages do people expect you to deliver in your role? If you send out weekly updates or a newsletter or host monthly meetings, what do you want people to walk away with? If you're a trainer or a coach, what is your message? If you're an entrepreneur, what knowledge, wisdom, values does your audience expect from you? Think about themes. Do you talk about the pursuit of excellence, about perseverance? Do you talk about the commitment to customers? What actions do you typically persuade people to take? What do you warn them against? These are all things I want you to consider and write down in the message column, just like you did in the story column. Don't hold back. Dig deep. Dig wide. Every item on that list, again, is an opportunity for a story, and we're trying to figure out if the story you want to tell is a good fit with the messages you deliver. And in fact, that's actually the last step in the process. Cross-referencing between the two columns, the two lists, the messages and the story you want to tell. We're looking for footholds, for crossovers, for items that appear on both lists in some shape or form. It's those intersections that make it possible to tell your story and really have it matter. You just need to find one to make it work. Want to see what I mean? Okay, let's go back to the man who came up to me after the event. I could tell he learned about the power of story. He really wanted to tell his story, the one that was on his mind. And so he said, I lost my son. He said, my son passed away, and I want to tell that story. Now, certainly, that is a very big story, a very difficult story, and I'll be honest, a lot of pre-work needs to be done on a story of this type. That's a topic I'll have to cover in a different video. For now, what's important is this man had a story, just like you might have a story, and so the first step was to fill in the story column. It didn't take long to come up with an entire list of items he'd learned from that experience, okay? Step 2, filling out the message column. To get a better understanding of what his message might be, I asked the man what he did for a living, what messages he typically delivered. It turns out he is a real estate trainer. He teaches other agents how to close more deals, become more profitable, etc., etc. He guides them through both the technical aspects and the psychological aspects of a career in real estate. I made a mental list of items that might be included in his message column, the points he makes, the information he delivers. I considered potential, as we're standing there, potential story and message crossover points, and immediately I saw a possible point of connection. I asked if one of the things he teaches his real estate agents and training is the importance of time management. He said, oh yeah, that's a huge part of my training. New agents always spend their time poorly. They waste a ton of time on tests that don't generate revenue. They end up broken, miserable, and discouraged. They're just buried under a pile of irrelevant work. I said, okay, now tell me, in your experience, in the story about your son, did you learn the true value of time? And he looked at me like a light bulb was slowly turning on, and he nodded. So I continued. I said, you know better than anyone how valuable time really is, and that in the end, the only thing we'll ever wish we had more of was time. And he stared at me and said, yep, that's it. Thank you. And he just turned and walked away, right? But he was on a mission. So here's what I'm saying. If you have a story you want to tell, but you aren't sure exactly how to connect it to a message, use these two columns, find the interconnecting points, and figure out a way to get that. That's how you'll figure out a way to get that story told. I hope you have some work to do. I can't wait to hear the stories you tell.